Hi, I'm Matthias. I'm a psychotherapist, and I specialize in working with trauma.
Hi, I'm Joey. I'm an author and a poet.
This is a podcast where we dive deep into complicated questions.
And share our personal experiences.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll gain some insight.
Or maybe just leave with more questions.
Yeah, well, the thing is, we're two dudes who probably just need some more therapy. Okay, I'm a therapist. I'm Matthias. I make videos on the internet about mental health. And I have 2 kids and a wife, and I live in Nashville, Tennessee. Okay, that's the main points. Who are you?
You nailed it.
Or do you want to go deeper?
We'll go deeper. We'll go deeper in a second. Okay, slow it down. I'm Joey. I am 27. I live in Ottawa, Canada. Cold up here. 0 kids, 0 wives, 1 girlfriend, 1 house. And I am an author, social media content creator.
Yeah, that's good. Do you wear the title poet, or do you not? You think that's too limiting?
I feel like I have a lot of poetry, and the poetry is like what goes, I guess, viral online. But yeah. I don't really write poetry. I write installments that just sound good, and then people labeled it as poetry, and I was like, okay. Sure. But I didn't study poetry or anything.
What's an installment?
That's what I call my chapters.
Oh.
Because I find they're not
That's kind of cool.
big enough to be chapters. They're just things. And I just wrote them in installments.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You do have just, they're kind of just these chunks of thought about life, relationships. Yeah, they kind of toe the line of giving advice versus saying something relatable versus validating things that people are going through. Yeah. So yeah, it is kind of a category all its own.
I like to think so. I mean, I just stumbled upon it. But sorry if you can hear barking. Yeah. I have 3 dogs in my house right now.
Whoa.
I know, it's way too much.
Well, it's all right. I have 2 kids. You have 3 dogs. So we both have something we're taking care of.
Mine just have more hair. And I need to vacuum more. You just have to get, I don't know.
Yeah, you do need to vacuum more. You're right.
Oh, it's awful.
Yeah,
it's awful.
We probably clean up a similar amount of feces and urine.
Oh, okay. We're diving into that. That's fun.
Well, I'm potty training my daughter right now, who's 2.5.
I wish we just clipped it at I'm potty training. And that was your explanation.
I'm potty training. I'm having issues. No, it's really exciting. My daughter is using the toilet pretty consistently now, but getting to that point was a lot of spills and messes and carpet cleaner. So that's the reality. But it is totally worth it because changing diapers gets old real quick.
Now, obviously, you're going to say yes to this, but do you enjoy being a dad?
Obviously, yes. I thought about this a little bit. I think that on the outside, different stages of parenting look better or worse. And I think that if you were to test people, meaning like there's been studies, for example, where you give them a buzzer, you give them just like a little pager. And then as a parent's going throughout the day, the scientist or whatever will like send off the pager and then ask, in this moment, parent, are you happy or are you stressed? Right? And then in that moment, the parent has to say whether they're happy or stressed. And so here's my guess. If you were to send out that pager to parents of young kids, most of the time they're going to say stressed.
For sure.
Right? But if you were to ask them, like, are you happy? Are you more happy or are you more stressed being a parent? Most people would say they're happy. Like, yeah, having kids is a great thing. But then if you were to do that pager thing, they'd be like, well, I'm pretty stressed. Now that changes once kids get a little older. And then you're kind of in like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 like world. And there's some weird stuff around puberty and middle school that, of course, is hard for everyone, including the kid going through it, most of all, probably. Yeah. And then teenager years can be great or they can be super stressful, depending on your relationship with the teen. And then when you ask folks with like kids who are grown up, the vast majority of them say that they're way happy. And they look back on the experience and they're like, yeah, I'd do it again. It was great. Not everybody, but a lot of folks are like, oh, this is great. And then you give that pager to an elderly person. This is where it gets interesting. the ones who have kids and grandkids in their life, vastly happier than the ones who don't.
Oh, I bet.
So
I feel like
I think
the stress is, I feel like the button needs to be, I'm stressed, but it's worth it.
Oh yeah, that'd be a nice button.
Right? Because like, obviously,
would you press the other one? Would you ever press the
would you ever
stressed?
press happy?
It's not worth it.
Yeah. I just think that, okay, everybody gets stressed. There's stressful times in our lives. But like, stress isn't always the negative side of it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know. I always think like, okay, not to be the classic compare dogs to kids, but there's times when
do it.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it right now. There's times when my dog is acting up and I'm like, of course I'm stressed, but you're looking at your dog. You're looking at like eyes and you're like, deep down, I'm not upset. I don't regret this. I'm still happy, but you know.
What do you love most about each of your dogs? Tell me about that. Each dog, what's the best part?
So I have one, and then my girlfriend, she has one, and then my brother's visiting right now, and he has one.
Okay. So I don't care about your brother's dog.
Good, me either.
Okay.
Mine, my dog, his name's Frankie. I love that. He's just very understanding. Yeah. If that makes sense. You speak to him, you can tell he's listening, and he's trying to like he's trying to connect the dots in his brain, and you can like see him think. And then we have my girlfriend's dog, Indy. And so now she's a very big part of my life. And she was the biggest stressor of my life because she was scared of men. And so I had to train her, or I had to train myself to teach her and teach myself how to be okay in the same room.
I was going to ask, how do you train your dog to not be scared of men as a man? What's your technique?
Well, she wouldn't go through for example, she wouldn't go through the door if I opened it. And so there's a lot of trauma there, and she was adopted. And so we don't know exactly what happened. But so what I started doing is I'd prop open the door and I'd walk outside and then I'd call her. So I wouldn't be in the doorway. And then just like little things like that. And then
that's
just
wise.
Never getting in her face or in her space and just like not greeting her really at all. So I walk in the door and I just like, so that's not me being rude, but that's me being like, you have your space and I have mine. I respect yours. Now you respect mine.
Yeah.
And then that's
in psychology world, we call that respecting people's boundaries.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's how you build trust. Some scientific word.
No, that's the technical term.
Okay, so now let's make it even worse.
Your boundaries.
Let's make it worse. What do you no, pick a favorite kid.
Okay, good. Okay, so my favorite kid right now. No, I'm just joking. Well, hold on. So I'll tell you that. But so you like how your dog thinks, I guess. So Frankie, her cognitive process is what's most exciting to you about her. She has an Instagram account, right?
I'll stop you right there. Frankie's a dude.
Whoa.
We have to have this conversation. He's a guy.
Dude.
I mean,
I did not mean to misgender your dog.
He does have an Instagram account, and it's been a lot of fun. That's kind of been like a separate part of my life. This I don't know, I guess my two-faced online, which is fun.
Yeah. Well, what's the account handle so everyone can go follow this dog?
Frankie to the Moon. And I named it that because I named Frankie after Frank Sinatra because he's got baby blue eyes. And what?
Yeah, go ahead. No, I was going to ask if the pronouns are in the bio, but that felt like a weird joke.
They're not. Strictly because
it feels like it's a bad taste.
I don't know. I think you gotta somewhat make light of situations like that. Like, that's fine. They're dogs. At the end of the day, they're dogs.
Yeah, they're dogs. And they're dogs.
I feature both on the account. One's a girl, one's a guy. I'm not gonna throw that in there. But yeah, I have the dog account. It's so interesting having a totally separate, like polar opposite creator life. Like on one side, everybody thinks I'm the sad guy that just wants to cry or make you cry. And then the other side, it's just like I'm playing with my dogs and this is the greatest life ever.
You kind of need that balance.
Yeah. You should have that balance.
I do. I don't have it publicly, but I do.
You have a Finsta?
I love... Wait, what'd you ask?
A Finsta?
A Finsta?
Do you know what that is?
Oh, dude, I feel super old. What's a Finsta?
A fake Instagram. So it'd be like your secondary private Instagram.
Oh, I have one of those on Twitter.
Twitter. Everyone's dropping out of Twitter.
Not me. I think it's fun. I mean, I'm on Threads a lot too. But yeah, I have like an account where I follow all the political people that I want to hear all their opinions on things, and I kind of like watching all the fireworks go off. But I don't want to deal with the DMs of people being like, "Wait, why do you follow this person? Are you endorsing their political whatever?" And so it's just a mess. So like, there's like some user XYT134 that's just me following like everyone from like AOC to Ben Shapiro to everybody, just seeing what everyone's talking about. So that's
at the end of the day, it's on Twitter. It's entertainment. And I feel like a lot of people forget about that. It's like even if they're not creators, they're also pushing for likes and views and to be heard more than I guess the other politician. So it's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's my, I don't know what Finsta would be on x.com/Twitter, but that's my version of that. On Instagram, I follow a lot of, the algorithm will just give me what I want, so I don't have to worry about all that, but a lot of stand-up comedy. So like, just a lot of like just clips of stand-up people being silly. There's something actually really great for me personally, because I'm a therapist that sits with a lot of deep stuff all day. So I am a trauma therapist too. So I'm listening to, people's abuse stories, people's like the most complex relationships, that they don't know how to figure out, people being estranged from their kids, people's mom who's died. Like I do a lot of grief. So my day-to-day is in a very heavy place almost all the time. And that's fine. I love it. I find a lot of meaning in helping people. That's what I signed up for. But there's something kind of like a breath of fresh air about comedy that kind of touches on similar vulnerable places, but kind of makes light of it. And there's kind of a levity to touching on some of those taboos, but kind of poking fun that almost kind of like, okay. Like making jokes about stuff that is serious and probably we shouldn't be making jokes about. Like we should probably be more relaxed. But for me, it kind of almost provides a counterbalance, because some of that stuff that's super heavy, all you can do is either laugh or cry. Those are really the only two things that make sense to do. And so you can cry, but for me that spends 8 hours a day in a heavy, dark place about it, sometimes laughing about some of that stuff just helps balance me out emotionally. And so
it's really the polar opposite, right?
Yeah, about the same kind of stuff. Yeah.
I think that's healthy.
Yeah, thanks. I think so too. Yeah, I like it. I don't know why. I guess I sound a little defensive of it in the way I'm describing it. I guess I'm
I feel like we have to kind of, I guess we're kind of built to put up a defense when we're talking about anything like somewhat controversial. Like there's a lot of controversial comics out there that people really, really hate. But it's like sometimes we're not connected to who they are or what they've done. It's just they said something funny and we laughed because it brought a little joy to something that was dark inside of us. And I don't know. I don't think like the cancel culture right now makes you feel bad for anything that you like, even if it's something amazing. It's like, how are you supposed to live? So I think that's fine.
Yeah. The other side of the coin is feeling like you are the butt of the joke and everyone's laughing at you. And so that's the part that it's not even me just being like defensive of like wherein I'm offending someone listening, but it's also kind of a part of my own conscience. It's like, well, I want to be respectful and not add to people receiving discrimination or hate. I don't know. It's there's it's multiple parts of me that feel different ways about it.
But when you're watching these, you're not therapist you're just you. Yeah. Right? You're not at work. You're not sitting there with a patient that's like, hey, I don't know, something abuse, and you're like, oh my God, I saw this really funny joke about abuse. Here, check this out. Like you're not doing that. You're not doing that, right?
No, not. Of course not. No. It's and obviously there's like a line where it crosses, and I'm not over there just like he and Han over like, abuse. But this is hard. I don't think I've really like talked out loud about how I think about this. It's like we're kind of in a culture that doesn't really know what to do about some of that. It's because I think so much of communication in our culture is entertainment driven. The way that you get your voice out in the world in any algorithm, whether it's like YouTube or Twitter or Instagram, is there has to be something sensational about what you're saying that grips people. That's what pushes it out in the algorithm, and those are the voices that we hear the most. And so the voices we hear the most are the most sensational takes on hard things. And so, I approach that in my content through talking about it directly and like, let's talk about the emotional weight that you have around like going to your parents around the holidays and then feeling really awkward. Like, let's talk about some ways that you can make that better, but then there's other people who kind of touch at it, that same vulnerability from humor or in a skit, or just like a great TikTok of someone just venting about their mom, that doesn't have any constructive, like skills. It's just like, God, this first date I went on was terrible, or whatever.
Yeah.
We're all kind of trying to talk about the human experience, but the way we're talking about it is through sensationalism, which when we think about that ethically, morally, I'm getting way too abstract here.
I like it. I like it. The way that I think about that, people are making videos nowadays is like everyone's playing a victim. And that's kind of how they're labeling it, which is, I don't know. It gets the
Tell me what you mean by that. Yeah, what do you mean?
What was the example that you just said? Like, oh, I hate my mom or something?
Yeah.
So it'd be like that. Like, I hate my mom did this to me. And so, okay, we're showing the victim side of how much my mom offends me in this way and does this to me just to do it to me. And then so as a viewer, I'm watching, it's like, wait a second. My mom sometimes makes me feel like that. Yeah, screw all moms.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it gets the view because people want to feel that connection to that one emotion that is still stringing along.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's the way I describe it is like, we want to feel like our experience is valid. Yeah. And so sometimes someone like makes a video that's almost the exaggerated version of like what we feel, but it scratches that itch. And we're like, yeah, it does suck. And maybe I wouldn't call my mom like abusive or anything like, but there's that thing she does that kind of drives me nuts, sort of like that. And so I vicariously get out a little bit of rage just listening to this person rant.
Yeah, I watched this one like podcast clip of, I don't know how to say his name. Bert Kreischer?
Kreisner.
Yeah?
Bert Kreisner.
Oh
yeah.
Really? Okay. Cool.
Bert Kreisner.
I'm happy.
He's a hoot.
Yeah, and
he's a real hoot.
I think he had his mom on or somebody, and they were like, "Have you ever thought about like hitting me when you got angry?" Whoa. And like he just sat there in like silence and didn't say much. And she was like, "Have you ever like thought about pushing me down the stairs and stuff?" And he just stay quiet.
I don't think I've seen an episode with his mom. I know he did one with his wife. Is that the one you're thinking about?
Oh, maybe it was his wife.
Dude, she's not that old.
Okay. I didn't even know how to say his name.
No, I'm just joking. I don't know. It might have been a mom one. Well, yeah, it's everyone kind of like wants to ask those questions. That's what's kind of cool about a piece of content like that. Our mutual friend Jeff Harris did something similar to that. So Jeff is a songwriter and a musician, and he made a song that blew up on TikTok, but then TikTok took it down. And it was there's a whole thing because he wrote a song about mourning his mom's death, but his mom's still alive, and then he played that song for his mom, and then had his mom sing harmonies and vocals on that song.
Amazing.
And there's the part of me that's like, oh, like almost cringes at the intensity of that.
Yeah.
But then you watch it and it's like super tender and sweet. And then there's a party that's like, oh man, I don't know how to talk about my feelings about the idea that my parents might die one day with my mom. I don't know how to bring that up. I kind of want, and it's not even like I want to, but I kind of do. Like if I could have a way to tell my mom how much I'd miss her and how much that would just wreck me without just ruining the whole evening or something. Like,
I think there's a difference though when you do it with art.
Yeah, that's my point. Is like that. So I almost vicariously get to touch on that in my own heart by watching a video like that.
Yeah. So, but if you were to make a video helping people, or it could be like a video to yourself about how you would deal with your mom's passing, and I'm sure you've dealt with that in therapy with your patients and whatnot. So I feel like that you'd be able to talk about because you'd kind of put on your hat and be this different person. And so that's the way that I think he was able to do that, is because he was like in his artist form. I didn't see that video though. I'm kind of mad that I didn't get a chance to see that.
Well, it's funny because they took it down because he released it, like he published the song, and then they thought it was a copyright violation on his TikTok, and so they took the song down because he was violating his own copyright.
That's happened to me.
And TikTok is great where you can't, when you submit a claim to TikTok, TikTok is rarely wants to play ball and like help you with anything. Yeah. So
it happens.
Yeah, those vulnerable emotions, the suffering, the pain, it's hard to know how to approach it. And sometimes the humor approaches it in a dishonoring way, but yet touches to a truth in the experience that we don't know how to talk about in an honoring way. And then, of course, we try to talk about it directly. And I think my content, of course, talks about it directly. And talk about what would it be like, you know, for someone you love so much to pass, and how would you get through it? And then I try to give people a life raft and like, here's some ideas. And so if it happens, you're not just left flailing.
Yeah. Well, so many comics, they like, you don't really see it in their clips on TikTok, but if you go to their live shows, they actually have like motivational speeches hidden without, or vulnerable talks. And they're saying like, basically, this is where this joke came from. Like, I had an ex that was really, really bad to me, broke my heart, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then the joke comes. But like, if you're just going there and you kind of like piece it together and you just take their little vulnerable segments, they're just like in a therapy session with 3,000 people.
Yeah, they are. I heard a quote from Nate Bargatze. I think I'm saying that last name right. He's a comedian. And he said, yeah, comedy, if people aren't laughing, comedy just sounds like a mean speech. And I love that. Because it is. It's critical. It's mean. It's reductionistic. It makes sweeping statements. It doesn't pay attention to the nuance. And in a world where all I do every day is tease apart the nuances, it's kind of nice to just be like, ha ha ha.
Oh yeah, you get to just like veg out and relax, I guess. I mean, maybe not relax, but just view it from a different point.
Yeah, I get to relax.
I always think,
I don't know, what do you do to recharge in your deep, like, emotive content? You do stuff with your dog. What else do you do?
Yeah, well, I was going to get into that. That's the most interesting thing, is that so I make content that's emotional. None of my friends know me as this person, though. Like, they'll all come to me for their hearts and stuff. But on your average day to day, if we go out for dinner, I'm more the comedian than I am the whatever you would call me. Which is interesting, because I guess I just leave it in the office or leave it at the door. Otherwise, I'm going to be carrying it with me all day. If I walked around thinking about, you know, what I write about, I feel like that'd be a hard life to live. So the things that I do, I love playing sports. Classic Canadian hockey kid. I like go with my dog. I love cooking. I feel like you like to cook.
I do. I didn't know you liked cooking. I love to cook.
I love cooking. I feel like you like do you like the art of cooking? Like just everything about it?
I get super, super technical, super into it. I'm really good.
I knew it.
We have to talk about this, but we should probably start a different episode. We've been talking for a long time.
But we
have
have
to start another episode and talk about. Do you want to talk about cooking in a new episode?
But we haven't been talking for. We definitely need to like stop recording and start a new one. But this episode was only 20 minutes max, maybe. I feel like we got to close it out.
Yeah,
and then we can start a new one.
All right.
I don't know how to close it out.
Well, I think this is our close. I think we keep this in.
Damn it. Listen, I know I said I wanted to be like the listener's voice and be like, okay, maybe the dumber one on this side, but I don't want to be like this.
Yeah, I think we cut it. All right, everybody. That was episode 1 of the podcast. Tune in for episode 2 where we talk about cooking. I mean, we'll probably loop it back around to something more substantive than just cooking.
They're probably thinking like at the end, just clearly, these guys need therapy.